We made this.
Welcome in to Back to the Decade, the podcast where we rewind 10 years and reflect on pop culture of the time. And this is our 2011 preview episode. I am Thomas Adams, joined as always by Nick Hoffman.
What's up?
Nick, welcome to a new season of the show. We are done with 2010, officially on to a new year, but what's not changed is our life circumstances. Still doing this over Zoom.
I was going to say, more importantly, we're done with 2020 and we're on to hopefully better, brighter days.
It'll be nice to get to a point in this show where, like, when we're just kind of talking about current events, we can actually reference like new movies that we saw in theaters and things to that effect. Things that'll feel somewhat normal again.
Yeah.
It's been a while. What have you guys been up to?
Oh, well, I mean, aside from continuing to live in pandemic and trying to do our best at social distancing and, hangs with friends that are safe and conscious of the situation.
Wrangling a 6-month-old?
Raising, now 6-month-old. Kat, as you know, works for the CDC, so she's just been crazy busy on the with CDC's COVID response.
Did I see on social media she took some time off?
She did, yeah. She rolled off last week, which is awesome. And she took this week off, and it's been a nice break for both of us, really. For me, it's like I was taking care of Lizzie, while she worked, and Kat would feed her when she could as she was working and between her meetings, and she was amazing. But like for me, it was like daddy daycare from 8 o'clock till about 5:30, 6 o'clock each day. So yeah, actually it's funny, today we're recording, but Kat took Lizzie up to her parents in Roswell, and I was able to stay back and just like, Kat was like, you just go and you just take a break, and I just went
fly solo.
Dude, I just went driving around. I went to the west side of Atlanta, went to a couple different spots where I used to work, stayed outside, kept my mask on. I saw some old friends in the industry as far as, the film business goes, and got some updates there. And, it was really nice. Kind of felt like I was working again a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a, functioning adult outside of childcare.
Yeah.
I applaud you for that, because, having also raising a 6-month-old, it is fucking exhausting. And I don't know what we would do without, obviously, like Caitlin and I are both having to work from home, but without getting help, recently, back in early January, we started having someone come to the house like 3 days a week. You still find that the other 2 days of the week, you're just scrambling, trying to figure out how to occupy her and also get the work done. And it's a lot. It's pretty nuts. Cause as you're finding out with Lizzie, like the older she's getting, I feel like the more she needs an eye kept on her, because she's starting to move, and she does not like sitting still. But it's awesome.
I very much felt like at this point in February, like it's winter. We're kind of in the heart of winter right now. It's cold, it's rainy in here in Georgia, and there's like this whole winter vortex coming through the South, and it's just like what we see is like devastating Texas right now, and Houston and places like that. But like here, it's just like cold, rainy, and miserable. And I was like somewhat at a boiling point, like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here. Like I just need like a day to like not have to take care of an infant. And no, it was nice, man. And Yeah, we've watched some good movies recently too. I mean, some fun stuff. We watched Barb and Star.
You watched
Uh,
Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar?
yeah, it was. It wasn't great. It wasn't very good, but it was fine. It was
Pretty
fun.
silly, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was cute. I like seeing Kristen Wiig in a role like that. Um,
Yeah, it's well, speaking of this year we're about to cover, I'm pretty sure that she co-wrote that with her best friend
yeah,
who
Bridesmaids.
she
Hmm.
co-wrote Bridesmaids with, which we'll talk about this summer.
Oh, is that 2011?
Yeah, it is.
Oh shit. Well, then there we go. That's why I mentioned it because
Yeah,
I wanted to tie it
exactly.
in.
And it's actually why you watched Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar. You're doing some
Yeah, that's why
homework.
we paid $20 for it in our
I
living
can't.
room.
I just can't bring myself to. There's a lot of movies that are out for rent that you've mentioned. Like I know that you told me you guys watched Promising Young Woman.
Yeah.
I want to check out at some point, but like they're $20. It's hard to rationalize if it's not something that I'm like dying to see.
Yeah, I mean, if I justify it as like seeing it in the theater. I mean, me, luckily, before the pandemic, like not like just a few months before it, I bought this like immaculate, beautiful OLED LG 55-inch, had it mounted in my living room. It's
Hmm.
beautiful. I got a real dark, my den is real dark and just like it looks immaculate. Like before the pandemic, I was like, I would rather sit in my den and watch a movie than going to the movie theater because its TV is incredible, and I still am that much in love with it. I like love watching movies on it, and I have a pretty good sound system because I love listening to vinyl. So I have the same setup with my vinyl. I have these really great,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, these great speakers, Klipsch speakers, and yeah, I mean, I just have my own like theater set up in my den. So like $20, I'm like, well, if I went to a movie theater, I would spend same amount after popcorn and a couple sodas or whatever. So yeah, whatever.
I think like Caitlin and I's biggest problem we keep running into is like for one, exhaustion by the end of the day. We're like, do we really want to give 2 hours plus? And then we also we like just bought a new house. So we have been in the house for like a month now, but moving from a two-bedroom apartment into a four-bedroom home, it like there's just like so much more work to do than would normally happen with a move.
Oh yeah.
So it's just been like all consuming. But I'm excited to like I'm recording now from my I guess it's like a man cave slash
Yeah, is that your cave?
movie room. Yeah, this is it where I'm recording from right now. And I've basically Caitlin's getting like a little frustrated because I've put so much effort into this and like not as much into the rest of the house so far.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just like I had the exact idea in my head of what I wanted to do with it. So
I see your Back to the Decade, hanging there in the background, the sign. You see, I got mine too.
oh nice.
Cat got me one too.
That's awesome.
Did you know that?
I think Caitlin did mention to me that she was going to get you one. I think she got me one for like my birthday back in December,
Yeah.
and Kat got you one for your birthday like the next month, I believe. Yeah, I was excited to have a space to like turn into like a movie room of sorts. So I want to get some nice speakers and make it a place where I feel like I actually like focus and watch movies again without feeling so distracted. But yeah, I'm like I have my wall of movie posters and then my office corner I'm going to turn into like a shrine of my recent run of football success as a fan of the Buccaneers and make a little section for Super Bowl posters and stuff. So
Oh yeah, man.
it's nice. But yeah, like that being said, I really didn't. I mean, I watched One Night in Miami. That's really the only movie that recently came out that I think I saw.
I don't know. One Night in Miami. I don't know it.
It's on Amazon. I'd recommend it. It's like the true story, sort of Muhammad Ali, Sam Cooke, Jim Brown. and Malcolm X, and they are in a hotel together after Ali has like won his first heavyweight championship, and they're having a conversation about race and their role in the civil rights movement. It's pretty cool. I think it's based on a
Nice.
play.
Yeah, man, that sounds interesting.
But yeah, other than that, it was I don't know how much of the NFL playoffs you watched, but I was obviously very invested in that, watching
Yeah,
every game intently.
yeah, I watched it. I watched most of it. And obviously the Super Bowl. Watching Tom Brady do what he did is just incredible. Never, probably never see anything like that again.
It's pretty insane. I'm still as a Bucks fan, I've watched every game this season. There was a lot of hype when they got Brady. There was hope that like, oh, even though he's old, the team's talented, maybe he can turn it around. I still didn't see it even as a fan watching the first like 3 months of the season. They just didn't seem like they were going to do it. They were not as good as the Packers. They were not as good as the Saints. They were certainly not as good as the Chiefs. And then they get into the playoffs and they beat all three of them. It's crazy. It was a wild ride,
Yeah,
but fucking impressive, and I'm happy it happened.
yeah. I've been watching a ton of NBA, like NBA basketball every night. Just love it. I feel like the sport's at an all time high at the moment, and I've really been enjoying those games.
I've not been watching a ton of it, but from like everything I see in the media, the headlines seem to always revolve around the Nets and the Lakers. Like everyone's kind of hyping that up as a foregone conclusion for what the finals is going to be. But from what I've been able to watch, the Nets don't seem super impressive to me. They're just not very good on defense. I don't know if they're getting better from
Man, I
like
watched them last night, and they were down 24 points to the Phoenix Suns in the first half, and that was without Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. And they came back in the second half with James Harden leading the pack, and man, they won. It was incredible. James Harden hits a three-pointer with like, I don't know, 13, 14 seconds left, and they were able to stop the Suns from, scoring anymore, and it was awesome.
you almost have to wonder about Harden though if he's more fit to do it by himself. He just feels like that kind of player where it's like when he's allowed to just take over and be the guy, that's when his like most magic happens.
But he did that in Houston for years, and didn't really get him anywhere.
Yeah, they got close a couple of times. I feel like they had a pretty deep team a couple of years ago and they almost beat Golden State. I think they had a 3-1 lead on Golden State at one point, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, it just seems like the Lakers are probably gonna win again. LeBron James, it's a similar situation to Tom Brady where he keeps getting older and just does not get worse.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love old Laker LeBron. I even got into, I don't know if you know about the recent trading card boom, but sports cards and basketball cards and specifically are like blowing up, man. Like their
Are they?
value is just worth so much money. And I've been getting into like collecting some old Laker LeBron, old man LeBron, like Laker cards. Only Laker LeBron because I'm a big Kobe fan, so I have a ton of
Right.
Kobe cards, and like I grew up with Kobe cards and all that stuff. But yeah, man, shit's crazy. I'm finding out now that I have like a ton of Kobe, first like 3 or 4 year, his rookies and some of his second year, third year, fourth year cards that are worth. I mean, they're worth a lot of money. So it's been kind of fun to like go back and like look through those, and I'm getting them all like graded right now. And yeah, watching what LeBron's doing with the Lakers and the way I mean, like, because he's arguably the greatest. He's the greatest of all time at this point, right? Like he's like Tom Brady is, right? Winning at this age, but also just going for as long as he's gone and still playing at this sort of level. It's just
Yeah, I think, obviously last year the last stand happened and It was this like ode to Jordan's legacy. So I honestly think the whole GOAT debate is kind of stupid and pointless. Like each generation, I believe, is allowed to have its own version of a GOAT, so to speak. Whereas Jordan, for his era, was easily the greatest player. And then LeBron has earned the right to come in to this new generation and kind of define what this era of basketball is, which I think makes him
Yeah, and he
a
took the
legend in
torch
his
from
own right.
Kobe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just as Kobe took the torch from Jordan. I feel
And
like LeBron was like kind of carrying it with him a little bit for a lot of those years. But
well, what's interesting is that like in football we had this debate going up to the Super Bowl, right? Because Patrick Mahomes is kind of seen as the new GOAT. Like I think the phrase they kept using was the kid because it was like a young GOAT. And they were like, oh, can Patrick Mahomes be the next Tom Brady? Can he be the guy that's going to, carry on that legacy of the best in the game? And I forget where it was, but someone had a quote about like that torch doesn't get passed. Like you have to take it.
yeah.
There's there's no there's no saying that like the old player has to pass that torch to someone else. Obviously, Tom Brady is still very much intent on holding on to it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be continuing into his mid 40s doing the things that he's doing. And I think that, Kobe had to take it from Jordan. He had to have that Michael Jordan insanity where that was all he cared about was winning and excellence and greatness. And he dedicated his life to it. He made enemies on the court because of it, but like it was all in the
Yeah.
name of
He had a lot of competition, right? You had like Allen
right.
Iverson trying to do the same thing. You had Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, Tim Duncan.
There was Shaq on
Um,
his own team that would
yeah.
often like fight for that spotlight. And then I think like, and this is, we can talk about this now because I kind of was going to bring it up when we went back to 2011, but 2011 is the year that LeBron goes to Miami. It's the year that he starts the big three,
The decision.
makes the decision. Miami eventually loses that finals to Dallas, which kind of shocked the world that they blew it in their first run with that big three.
Yeah.
But he kind of like, in a way, he redefined what it was going to take to be great in the NBA during this past 10 years. There was such an influx of talent that one guy was not going to be enough. You had to find a way to structure, at the very least, that Kobe and Shaq model of having the 1A, 1B. You needed two superstars. So he ditches Cleveland, goes to Miami, and he's been playing that model his whole career since that point. Goes to Miami for 4 years, wins two titles. Okay, this team's falling apart. Let's do it again. I'm going to go to Cleveland. I got Kyrie over there. I've got Kevin Love. I'm going to bring in from Minnesota. Do it again. This is running out of steam. Kyrie wants to leave. Fine. I'm going to go over to fucking LA now and bring over Anthony Davis. He doesn't quit. And I think like
Yeah.
it's a testament to not only him as like an athlete, but just as a mogul in the game that basically has had the power to completely structure what his career was going to be without any interference from owners or coaches or anything. Like he just does what he wants to do. And it's
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, it's kind of cool.
I love it, man. I love watching it. Being a huge Kobe fan, it's just like it's nice to see someone with that same mentality and like that old school mentality. Because I mean, people don't. LeBron's averaging more minutes than like a lot of these young all stars are, dude. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's playing more minutes and he's not sitting out games to rest or whatever the hell they're doing these days. Like the soft shit, like people like Trey Young and Luca and these guys are sitting and resting during regular season. And he's like, what the hell, man? Just if you're not hurt, play. Like, what's wrong with you? It drives me nuts. I love that LeBron doesn't do that, and I mean, he's just the best, dude. You watch him play, he can still get up and dunk the way he dunks, man. Like, if I'm to compare him between Kobe and Jordan and himself, like, you know, I don't know, man. I think it's he. I think he's arguably the GOAT. But I mean, he's been to 10 finals. He went to 8 straight, his own right. It's amazing to watch now, and I've become a big fan. Obviously, Kobe will always be my GOAT, but
Right.
if I were to pick between the three, like who the best overall player is, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of tough not to pick LeBron.
Well, it is. There is something to be said about the ability to just like succeed wherever you go, no matter the circumstance. Like,
Yeah,
I think what Tom Brady did this season by leaving New England after 20 years, going to a new team, and automatically making them a champion, like, if possible, it took his already amazing legacy and elevated it even more so, just because of how impressive that is. Coming back down 28-3 in a Super Bowl is one thing, but rescuing a terrible franchise in one season during a pandemic with no preseason, it's something completely different. So we're in like an exciting era of sports, I feel like, where a lot of it has to do with just talent being produced at an insane rate, but also we're getting to watch the greatest era of sports, like across the board: basketball, football,
yeah,
baseball, even. It's a good time to be a sports fan, and I'm glad that they found a way to keep having sports through all of this.
yeah, man, totally agree.
I think we can go ahead and transition and do the decade rewind, and maybe we'll like open up with 2011 in sports, just to kind of like keep going on that path.
Are you saying you'd like to go back to the decade?
Yeah, that's what I was saying in a very long-winded fashion.
All right, well, let's do it. Let's go back.
All right, so for the first time, we are in 2011. What a what do you remember about living life in the year 2011?
Oh man. Well, I was still in school, college at Georgia State University. I was serving tables at this restaurant in Peachtree City. I remember pretty vividly, like, that movie Drive being a big deal. So I remember my experience with that. Seeing that movie was awesome. That's where I originally fell in love with Ryan Gosling, and I am still madly in love with him to this day.
That was a big year for Gosling. He had Drive and Crazy Stupid Love.
Dude, don't even talk to me about Crazy Stupid Love, man. I'm gonna just give it I'm gonna chub right now just thinking about it. I just love I love him, and I love him in that movie. And as an extension from
I
Drive,
was
my
waiting to
God.
see where you're going to go with that, because that's a movie I feel like a lot of people have a problem with.
Oh,
I
what?
think it's lovely. I think it's
What?
great.
That's the problem with Crazy Stupid Love, man. It's such a good movie. I don't know. Whatever. I love it.
I do
And
too.
I love Gosling, and I will forever. But yeah, I mean, it was a good year. I don't know. I was gosh, what? I guess I was 27. Yeah, I was finishing up college, and I'd done some good traveling. Traveled across country a couple different times, and I was kind of trying to figure out what my next step was. Basically, like, my next step into growing up, getting older, because I was getting close to finishing college and everything. So, yeah, I mean, I remember, those movies we just mentioned, and I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of other movies that came out this year, but, I really liked Source Code, Duncan Jones film. and this is just me like going off of what I looked at earlier, but I don't know. What about you? What were you excited about in 2011?
2011 is that's a big year for me. I'm 18. I'm finally an adult, like legally. I go to college in 2011, graduate high school that summer. I graduate high school in Sarasota, gained like 15 pounds that summer from like some combination of being stressed about college and also like finally having free time for the first time in 4 years because high school was kind of intense for me. But then I go to Tallahassee, Florida State University, and yeah, I mean, that's kind of the year that I feel like I came into like the person I was going to become. I met some of my lifelong friends there, like a mutual friend of ours, Eamon. I meet him in 2011, living in the same floor as me at FSU in the dorms. There's a lot of stress that came with like trying to accommodate that dorm life where everyone's very much on top of each other, but it was like really fun too. It's like when I start watching movies I've not seen before with people that are, where you kind of like find those people that have the same interests as you because your horizons start to expand. You're like no longer under the roof of your parents and kind of getting to explore things for yourself. And yeah, I just have a lot of fun memories associated with, I think, like a lot of sports from this year. I spent watching in the basement of my dorm hall with like a bunch of other people. So I remember a lot of communal experiences. The finals that year, I watched with a bunch of people. The Super Bowl that year, all kinds of stuff. As far as movies, I think one of my favorite things about our campus was that we had an on-campus theater that showed classic movies, but also on weekends would show not new movies necessarily, but movies that had been in theaters for a couple months and were going to be on DVD soon. So they would kind of, show stuff that was more recent. And I watched so many of these movies that we're about to talk about in that setting just because it was free. I felt no urgency to see things at that
Nice.
time.
Yeah.
So I was like, I waited until it came to our campus cinema, would go with a bunch of friends and check things out on like a midnight screening that Friday night or something. And it made, I think it's a reason I love so many of these movies because the environment I got to watch all of them in was like with a really fun crowd that would get excited about the good moments and boo the bad moments. And it just really, I think, elevated the experiences of seeing a lot of these. But yeah, 2011.
Some good ones, man. There's some good ones. I'm looking at the list right now.
I'm actually wearing a t-shirt right now that's symbolic of my 2011 because it's the year that our basketball team was randomly good and I got to storm the court, which was a great experience. And my t-shirt is from that event. That's funny that I just realized that.
I was about to say, was that purposeful?
It was not. I just kind of looked down and realized it as I was talking. As far as movies go, one thing that I remember a lot about 2011 was that it was the year Harry Potter ended, which was a big deal for people of my generation specifically, the kind of people that were born in the early 90s that would have been children when the first book came out and kind of grew up reading those and seeing those films. I remember going to the final movie at midnight with just like a completely amped up crowd. Like you would have thought you were at the Super Bowl with the way this crowd was. Everyone's dressed up.
Nice.
Every like big moment in the movie would result in a standing ovation. It was It was wild. But yeah. I remember you don't really have a relationship to the Harry Potter movies, right?
Not really. The only one that I really got into was the one where they like traveled through time. I took some mushrooms with some friends and I watched that one like back to back, like the same movie.
You
We
watched the
watched it
same movie twice in a row.
twice in a row, and I'd eaten some mushrooms, and it was really, I mean, a great experience. I mean, I loved it. Which one was that? Where they traveled through time?
That is the third movie, The
Was it
Prisoner of
Prisoner of
Azkaban.
I thought it was the one with Gary Oldman, right?
Gary Oldman,
Yeah,
directed by Alfonso Cuarón. It's
yeah, that shit
like,
was great.
yeah, it
That shit-
is. It is the best of the franchise, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the only one I've seen outside of the original one, right? When I was younger, but
The first one.
yeah, you know, mushrooms will do wonders for Harry Potter if you are ever interested. I mean, it's still good movies on their own right, but
Yeah,
um,
I think if you watched that again sober, you would still find it
no,
very good.
I imagine so. And that was the last time I did mushrooms too. So don't worry, everyone. I'm not just taking mushrooms over here.
That's how many times have you brought up mushroom on this pod? That should be on like Back to the Decade bingo.
Dude, there's a third Ryan Gosling movie in 2011, The Ides of March. Holy shit!
Oh shit, I forgot about that
It was
movie.
like with George Clooney.
Have
That
you
was a
seen
big.
that?
That was a big movie.
It
Um,
was.
yeah, I watched it. I think I don't. I don't know. I didn't.
It's not good.
I didn't see, it was. I don't remember it being very
I
good.
know
No.
that Clooney directed it. Clooney stars in The Descendants this year as well. So it was a big year for Clooney, but when Ides of March came out, everyone was hyped because it's like Clooney and Gosling. They're like two big stars of this year specifically. Like
Yeah.
they're teaming up. It's going to be great. And then it was boring and I don't know. I haven't seen it since it came out, but I just remember being very disappointed. It had a huge cast too. I think
Yeah.
I forget who else, but there was those two names, and then the third person. It was some sort of like political.
I could click on it right now.
It was a
Tell me.
political thriller about Clooney was a
Evan
presidential
Rachel Wood.
candidate.
Evan
Okay,
Rachel Wood.
she must have been. Oh, that's what Philip Seymour Hoffman was in it. That's who I'm thinking of.
I mean, dude, it's 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, must have not been that bad.
Maybe not. I just don't remember
Paul Giamatti,
liking
Marissa
it at all.
Tomei, Jeffrey
Yeah,
Wright. Woof.
it's
Yeah,
loaded.
this movie's loaded. I mean, I'm not a big Evan Rachel Wood, so I mean, we could just like, kind of go ahead and move her down the list. But
She plays kind of an annoying character too, if I'm not mistaken.
oh, really? Shocker.
Her role in it is, I think, I I don't remember the details exactly, but I think that Clooney is a presidential candidate married to Marissa Tomei, but has an affair with Evan Rachel Wood, who ends up pregnant, and they have to like cover it up for the sake of the campaign.
We'll just have to rewatch it, my friend, and talk about it later in the year.
Ugh, I guess we'll see what else came out that month. Maybe I could get it off the list.
Oh man, Hugo was this year. Wow, that was a great movie. Uh,
Hugo's
the
great.
The Thing prequel, underrated, underrated film. Very good.
Is that's a prequel?
Yeah.
I thought it was a remake for some reason.
No, no, it's a prequel. It's a good, decent movie, man.
When did that come out? Do you
As
have the
far as
date in front of you?
the month goes,
Ooh, October. That's good for Halloween
yeah.
time.
No, we should talk about that because it was underrated, and I thought, see, it was surprisingly like very good movie.
Yeah, this is kind of a good Halloween year because I also wrote down Paranormal Activity 3, which I think I've only seen the first three, but I think is the best movie of that franchise, and also like pretty heavily underrated
Yeah, I've
in
never
my
seen
memory.
any of those movies.
They're pretty fun, but I'm like a big fan of the ghost movie genre, like people in a room and then a cabinet randomly flies open.
Yeah,
That stuff is like up my alley.
yeah, that shit freaks me out. So I never liked it very much.
There was a movie that came out this past year called Host, which is, I have to say, the best movie I've seen that follows this Zoom pandemic era of movie making where like the whole thing takes place on computer screens. And it's like eight friends in quarantine having a seance for some reason over Zoom. And like shit would happen. Like you and I on Zoom right now, a door would like fly open behind and everyone's like, oh my God. And it was just like an hour and 20 minutes straight of shit happening on people's Zoom screens that was like weird
No, no,
paranormal
thank you.
activities.
No, thank you.
I thought it was fun. It was a good Halloween watch.
The Raid. You ever see that?
I've never seen that, but that's a
Fucking incredible movie.
they do the the Big Picture podcast from The Ringer does this like movie draft thing where
Yeah.
they go through and from each year draft a team of movies, or it's kind of a convoluted thing, but they happened to do one for 2011 kind of recently. So I listened to that and they brought that one up as a, I believe it was like in the action category. It is an action movie, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, it's like one of the greatest action movies of this century, man. It's insane. It's like Die Hard. I mean, did you ever see that? Did you ever see the Dread movie, the remake of Dread, or like the reimagining of Dread recently?
I
That
didn't.
happened. Oh, okay. Well, it's a lot like that, but yeah, it's kind of like the same idea of like Die Hard, right? It's like this one guy. It's part of like a police force that has to infiltrate a building that's been taken over by terrorists and one form or another, and it just like, but I mean, like it's the action is like insane. It's nonstop. It's arguably, I mean, it's more insane than like a Die Hard or something, but it's similar in the narrative.
That is going on the list then.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, it's a must. I have that on DVD. Be fun to break that one out.
I think like looking back, now that I'm seeing that's a September movie, September is fucking loaded this
That
year.
Drive, that's Drive,
It's
right?
Drive, it's Moneyball,
Oof.
it's The Raid Redemption, and the most prescient movie from 2011, Steven Soderbergh's Contagion.
You know, we might have to break that up into a couple different episodes.
We might, that's loaded. I mean, were you among the slew of people that watched Contagion back in March when all this shit broke out?
Well, I saw Contagion in the theater with my dad. I remembered it really well. Um,
Okay.
so I saw that in the theater, and I didn't think much of it. I was like, okay, I mean, it's like no outbreak, right? Like with Dustin Hoffman, Cuba Gooding Jr. Like it's okay, not nearly as entertaining,
I mean,
but
it's a little bit ridiculous, this idea of like a virus that's gonna cause everyone to be locked up for over a year. Like, I mean, come
mhm,
on, why? Like, that's science fiction.
yeah, it's nuts. But now, yes, of course, looking back, early on, Kat and I actually did watch it um, pretty early on because Dr. Shookit, I believe her name was, is who's played by Kate Winslet. Um, or okay, well, Kate Winslet plays a character that's based off Dr. Shookit, who is a very like world renowned, just like brilliant mind and wonderful.
Epidemiologist.
Yeah, a beautiful person who ran the CDC for a while, and she was the CDC director, and um, very. I mean, just you know, there's a reason that like she was the person that they had as like a figure to for Kate Winslet to play because I mean she's just fucking awesome. And if we had someone like her in the position today, which she kind of was in the thick of things in the beginning, but with the Trump
Yeah, yeah,
administration,
yeah, yeah.
interfering with everything, she didn't get to participate.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, um, no, I love Shook It, and I love that movie Contagion, and I love Kate Winslet, and I think she kills it along with Lawrence Fishburne and Matt Damon and everyone else in that film. Watching it again for a second time, which because I think that was the second time I'd ever seen it, I thought it was obviously. I mean, it hit closer to home, and
Right.
thank God that coronavirus or COVID-19, like it wasn't as bad as what's depicted in that film. Which what goes on in that movie is like way more of a problem. But
Yeah,
still,
it's like a kills you immediately type disease. But
yeah. I mean, like it was.
I still think all that, that aside, what they portrayed in that movie, just you reflect on it now, having lived it, it's so accurate. Like
Yeah.
it's just so reflective of what actually happened in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like the way that
The
granted
spread. Yeah.
granted not even a fictional movie could have predicted the type of ineptitude that the US would have in a leadership position when this took place. But even still, like I thinking about, because we also watched that movie very early on when all of this happened, because everyone was watching Contagion in March. It was just like, for some reason, it became this like big thing for everyone to watch it. But the ending with the vaccination and how,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the process of which that vaccine was discovered feels kind of similar to how the COVID vaccine came to be. Like it was
Yeah.
like a lot of brilliant people just putting themselves at risk to get it done and get it done quick. And then you see how the process of getting a vaccine doled out to millions of people really fucking hard. Takes a
Mm-hmm.
long time. Even when the vaccine's discovered, you're looking at, months and months and months and months before, normal people can get their turn. I think in that movie it was some sort of lottery system based on birthdays where it was like
Yeah.
they
Yeah. It
would
was.
they would like draw a birth month or whatever. And it's like, oh, if you were born in March, then you can get vaccinated the next 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
That's
it's wild.
fucked up.
I hope that I'm optimistic that by the time we talk about that movie in September, we'll be able to kind of look at it from the lens of like coming out the other side of this. 'Cause I think that's the most optimistic perspective right now is that this summer starts to be when the vaccine becomes very, widespread, and
Yeah.
hopefully that'll be an interesting time to kind of look back on it.
Yeah, man. It's I think from what I took from that movie, and I remember like you talk about the vaccination part of it is like Lawrence Fishburne's character, um, giving up his vaccine to a colleague of his or what his son or what it was, and the others to his like wife and child. But yeah, man, it's crazy. I mean, I'm glad it didn't come to that sort of reality where it was that. I mean, coronavirus is contagious as all hell, and it has killed a lot of people. But that movie obviously depicts a much worse situation. So I'm glad we didn't get to that
Yeah.
point. But it's not too far off.
That was like a you get it, you die type of
Yeah. Oh
virus,
yeah. Oh yeah.
whereas coronavirus is like you get it and maybe you die and maybe you have nothing at all
Yeah.
and
Maybe you don't
maybe
even fucking know you have it.
right.
Which was really one of the more scary things about it because you can then still
Yep.
spread it and then someone else dies. So
Maybe you end up with like a heart condition for the rest of your life. Maybe you have a cough that lasts for 2 years. It's a weird fucking virus.
maybe your dick falls off. Like no one knows. We don't know yet. It's too early to tell. Our
We don't know
penises
what
could be falling off.
we don't know what these strains will bring. These new strains.
You never know what they're going to be talking
Uh,
about on the Today Show tomorrow.
yeah, I mean, the other thing about 2011, kind of like moving on to a different topic, was that it was a huge year for franchise films. Like I already mentioned Harry Potter, but there's two Marvel movies that year. There's Thor and Captain America kind of setting up for the Avengers. There's a Mission Impossible movie, there's an X-Men movie, there's a Fast and Furious movie. It's kind of like the first year I feel that represents what blockbuster filmmaking was going to become for the rest of the decade, because I feel like now every single year we get that many franchise movies
Yeah.
because there's just that many franchises.
So wait, that was the first Captain America, you say?
Yep.
And what was the other Marvel movie?
The first Thor.
Ah, Thor. Okay. Yeah. Those were.
So that was like the two movies that came out to set up the Avengers, which came out in 2012. But then, of course, after that, you basically get two Marvel movies every single year. It's just like the way that, if not three or four,
Yeah.
and now a TV show mixed in there. They just kind of, they're the dominant figure in movie making. There was also the fourth Scream film, another sequel.
Oh man, I don't. Did I see the fourth one? I don't know if I ever watched it.
Kind of underrated. I mean, I think that with the exception of stuff like Psycho or Silence of the Lambs, Scream is maybe my favorite horror movie. It's, I don't know, I
I
just love
have.
it. I love it a lot. The first Scream movie with Drew Barrymore in the beginning, and
Oh yeah, man, I grew up with that whole franchise. I mean, I love 1 through 3. I don't think I ever saw 4. Is there a fifth one?
no,
Okay, so stuff 4.
I might if
Timothy
that if
Oliphant.
that if that
Timothy
month is
Oliphant,
weak.
the second one. Come on.
Oh yeah, the second one I remember liking. I don't know about the third one. The third one I kind of remember as silly,
I mean,
but
they were all silly. Let's not kid ourselves here.
yeah, they're all silly. But that one like had a special layer of silliness to it.
Yeah.
If that month is weak, we might just watch that one, because that, I do think that that's underrated in terms of, the horror sequels that can kind of get bogged down.
Yeah.
It's also the beginning of one of my favorite modern franchises, which is like the how do you word it? It's like the prequel trilogy for Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
You get Rise, Dawn, and War. All great movies, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. So that was what year was this ape movie?
This one is Rise. It's
Oh, it's the first one.
the first one of the new trilogy.
Oh wow.
I think it comes out every 3 years at that point. You have Rise in 2011, Dawn in 2014, and then War in 2017. Even though those titles make very little sense to me, like I always feel like Dawn should be the first one, because like the dawn is the beginning of something.
All right.
Rise should maybe be the final one because they're all rising up.
Yeah.
The titles never made a ton of sense, even though those movies are good.
Franco, James Franco, he's in the first one. I remember that.
He is. He was a discussion of last year a lot.
You got J. Edgar. We're gonna watch that. I've never seen it.
Maybe that's kind of one that I feel like that falls in that category of like a movie that no one remembers exists.
Young adult. Young adult's really good.
Yeah, young adults on the list. Let's transition it from film to TV. I don't think like either of our relationships to TV probably changed from 2010 to 2011. I remember like both of us saying it's not really a time where we watched a lot of TV. I think that TV came into its own a lot more in the second half of this past decade. It's kind of funny to think about when I was looking at 2011 for miniseries, there's nothing at all. And it's just kind of funny to me because I feel like that's such a huge portion of what entertainment is in like 2021
Yeah.
is them reappropriating things that might normally have been a film and making it these 6-part miniseries, 8-part miniseries. Even Marvel now is doing their own version of that by putting a miniseries straight to Disney Plus.
Have you watched WandaVision at all yet?
Yeah, I'm watching it.
It's pretty
I'm
good.
watching it and I'm pretty into it.
Yeah, I think I'm an episode or two behind, but it's I think it's awesome.
I love the callbacks to the older sitcoms because it just reminds me of growing up with Nick at Night, what I used to watch before going to bed.
Oh yeah.
The I Love Lucy, Brady Bunch stuff, Bewitched. It's kind of a nice homage to that. And I think the two actors do a really amazing job of capturing that tone of like what it was like for shows back then. And it's kind of cool to see them get to do something that's like really different from what they typically do in Marvel movies, where everything's kind of self serious and action focused. And they're just kind of like goofing around having a good time.
Yeah, no, man, totally. You can feel that in the show itself. It's fun to watch.
From like the first episode, you can kind of get the tone where everything's very like over the top. There's the laugh track. And I don't know. I felt pretty comforted with like the first couple episodes. And then it becomes, the show evolves and becomes more of the
Yeah.
MCU we're familiar with. All right, I'm going to go through like some TV shows that came out in 2011. And I know that I've seen a couple of these, but I'm curious if you have any relationship to them. In January, we had Bob's Burgers. I know that's a long running show. Is that something that
Well, I love Boggs. I love Bob's Burgers now. I didn't watch it for the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 seasons, but now it's a show that I could watch at any moment, at any time, and I absolutely love it. So, but no, I did not watch it in 2011. I was not there for the beginning.
that's a show that I I just feel like I've never seen it. And I was a fan of Family Guy back in the day and that sort of Fox Sunday animation
It's
schedule. I was
it's
familiar with it, but
it's so much better than Family Guy. It's like actually like it's genuine in the sense of like family oriented comedy that it doesn't take
has like real
itself,
storylines.
yeah, like it doesn't take itself um too seriously, but at the same time it has like some cool, like, messages for anyone going through, whether you're a kid in a family like that or like a parent. um it's really like a lovely show. I mean, it does have like these wonderful lessons, and um the writing is like super sharp, and I think it serves, obviously like a much more of a purpose than the Family Guy does. Like I don't know. at this age now, I hate Family Guy. I don't know why I ever watched it. I absolutely I don't like that show at all. But at the
I
time,
yeah.
but in 2011, I loved it. I was watching it. I was probably watching that show.
Well, yeah, I think me even more so than you because I was younger. So it kind of
Yeah, I
like
mean, it
fit.
was funny. It was a funny show.
I hate what that show's become,
Yeah,
but
I can't watch. It's like cringing now. I can't like I cringe when that show comes on. But
I think
something like Bob's Burgers like warms my heart. I love it.
I genuinely still love like the first four seasons of Family Guy. Like I think I could watch that now and still find it like just
Yeah,
as hilarious.
yeah,
It had a certain
I can
element to it
tolerate
in
it.
the early years that
I agree with
I
that.
still quote to this day. Some of those early episodes.
Oh, well, whenever I see a Band-Aid, I go, "Ooh, a Band-Aid!"
Ew, a band-aid.
Yeah, from the bottom of the
I
pool.
still there's one we have this friend Brian that obviously like the dog's name is Brian in Family Guy, but there's a moment when Stewie is living with Brian for the episode or whatever. Like Brian's moved out and Stewie's at his apartment, and Stewie spills a box of cereal onto the floor, and he goes, "Oh no, Brian! Oh no!" And I just like find myself telling that to my friend Brian all the time, and he has no idea what I'm saying. But it's funny the way that shit like that gets stuck in your head.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some great moments of those early years of Family Guy, but I can't watch it now. And I mean, like you said, like I could watch those first 4 years or whatever, 5 years, and probably find some enjoyment out of it. But compared to like Bob's Burgers, man, like Bob's Burgers is like super
Yeah,
sharp writing, like great characters. There's some value to it. There's some wholesomeness to it. There's a little something for everyone that I love about that show. So
that could be worth checking out. I'm always looking for like a really light and easy sitcom to watch
I mean, dude, if
when
you've
I
never
don't feel
watched it,
like
I mean,
paying
yeah,
attention.
you get into it really easy, man. Just like I think what is it on Hulu or
Probably.
something? Oh man, dude, it's easy. Just throw it on. It's great soundtracks, man. Like great music. The songs that are composed for it and like the that are written for it are just like they're really good.
Man, January 9th, 2011 was the debut of Bob's Burgers, Downton Abbey, and Shameless. Three shows that I feel like are all pretty damn relevant 10 years later.
I never watched Downton Abbey, and I've never. I mean, everyone tells me I've had so many people tell me how much I would love Shameless, and I'm sure I would. But now at this
Yeah.
point, how many seasons? I can't start that.
I've
I got like a
never
Like a Larry David thing with that. I can't. I'm not gonna
I can't
start
get
that
into
show
that.
now. I got 12. You want to watch 12 seasons of a show? No, I'm not gonna watch that.
Yeah, I've never seen either show, Downton Abbey nor Shameless, but both of them fall into a category of like definitely shows that I've been told to watch countless times and still get told to watch to this day, 10
Downton
years
Abbey, there's
later.
no fucking way I would ever watch that show. I don't care about
I'm
that.
not doing it,
I'm not gonna
but
watch that show. I don't.
I know people that are fans of it.
I don't need that.
It
No.
also had Portlandia, which
Portland is great.
that's a great show.
I've watched plenty of episodes of that. I've always liked that show. But I didn't watch I didn't watch Portlandia for probably 2 or 3 years after it had been aired. So yeah, like
that was definitely a show that needed word of mouth. That was not something that I was going to be like, oh, let me go over to IFC and watch the Fred Armisen sketch comedy. That was not like on my to-do list in 2011.
no. It's like you said earlier. Like, I don't know if we were recording at the moment or not, but I don't think it's changed much from 2010 to 2011, where I wasn't watching a whole lot of television, and I mean,
Right.
I don't know if you were
I
as much either, but
I was watching a lot of because that was my first year of college. I binged a shit ton of stuff that year, but it was all stuff that had already been out for a while. Like
yeah,
that was the year that I binged 30 Rock and like caught up to, I think it was like season 5 at the time that they were in. And I remember like I caught up to that. How I Met Your Mother was in the middle of its run at the time. I watched all of that. Um, Breaking Bad, I caught up on that. Like that was just the year that I went to Netflix and binged all the shit that I like hadn't seen from the previous 4 years. And I remember that as like the beginning of my never watching anything live and just waiting until I could watch an entire season at one time.
Yeah.
This is the year of Game of Thrones, which I think is like probably the
Started
best example of this decade of
Game
a
of, Game of Thrones started in 2011.
it did, yeah. It came out in April of that year.
Yeah, I've never watched it.
I eventually watched it in 2019 in the lead up to its final season. Everyone's like, you gotta watch it. It's so good. Oh my God. I was like adamant. Nope, not for me. Not gonna do it. I
Yeah.
finally watched it. It's a good fucking show. So I was wrong.
I
But
have no doubt. I have no doubt it's a good show and the production value is clearly there. But and I feel HBO like come on. I mean, most anything they do is good. But and I'm lying if I say I've never watched it because I have seen
some
I think,
episodes.
2 episodes I watched in sequence. Because I was dating a girl at the time who I had over to my house, and she was obsessed with Game of Thrones. Mind you, this is like a first date. And she was like, you have HBO, I must come to your house and I must watch this episode of Game of Thrones because I do not have HBO. And I was like, are you using me to watch this show? Okay.
She absolutely was.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, probably. So anyway, she comes over and we watch this show that I have no interest in. And it's actually a really big moment in the Game of Thrones universe because I know it is because I've at least like followed the narrative somewhat throughout the years. But it was where Jon Snow kills his the woman that's in love with him. She's like a ginger woman,
Oh
the redhead
yeah.
girl. He
Yeah.
like he kills her. Like she's in love with him, and she's like pissed off that he's not.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Yeah. So yeah, so he kills her in that episode, and she like fucking loses it, like bawling, crying.
Oh, the girl you were dating?
Yeah, it was. It was
That's
like, what the
funny.
fuck? I was like, what is going on? I don't like.
That's
Why does this mean so much to you? I mean,
that
she
is
was
a
dying, like crying, like crazy. So I mean,
that
clearly
is a
that
great
didn't.
episode. That's one of my favorite episodes, I think.
All right, well, there you go. I mean, I guess it made sense that she was so emotional.
That's got to
She
be
did.
right around the Red Wedding as well. It's like that's also like a seminal moment in the
I mean,
history
I
of
think
that show.
we watched like the episode after that too.
You probably
That was it.
watched because I think that was like the end of a season, so you probably watched like the last 2 episodes of a season or something.
Well, I didn't see the Red Wedding because I know what you're referring to, but I didn't watch that at the bloodbath. But I didn't see that.
Yeah, I was very familiar with all of the like mythology surrounding the show because I watched South Park and they had like a whole thing that was making fun of it. So my roommates at the time watched Game of Thrones and I just asked them questions about like what the fuck does this mean?
Yeah,
Because I'm unfamiliar with it. But it was kind of cool to go back and watch it and I'm glad I did. The last season is not good, so it's always hard to consider watching it again, but it was a good experience. Uh,
yeah,
2011. Did you ever watch Wilfred?
I did actually.
Yeah,
That's actually a. I think I watched that in time. So, but I only
I
watched
think
the
I did
first
too.
season. I don't
That's a show that I actually liked a lot.
because it was FX, right? I was real into FX.
It was FX. Elijah Wood
Because yeah, I'm a big
talks talks
my
to a
all
dog.
yeah my all time favorite show is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Okay.
So anything, so if there was one show I was watching on TV any of these years, it was always It's Always Sunny. So if anything came out on FX, like I know Louis was like a big one later down the road, and there were others, but yeah, FX. I would usually catch their shows if I thought they might be good.
Yeah, they had a good little run there of TV, and they still have some stuff that comes out now that is popular. Like their FX on Hulu thing is, I think, a good way for people to watch some of their shows.
Yeah,
It's also the year of New Girl, which is a popular
dude,
sitcom from that time.
that's yes. Actually, talking about stuff we're watching now, that's one show that Kat and I just started watching
Really?
this
You
year.
you just started it?
Yep. Hey girl, what you doing? I love that intro. And they
I I
yeah, I
watched
love it.
I think I've watched New Girl a couple of times all the way through. I watched it in the end of college, like 2015 probably, and then again kind of recently. It's one that my wife and I like and just kind of throw on as a
It's really fun, yeah.
or eating dinner, and it's easy and not really
Exactly. You
plot heavy.
don't have to pay a lot of attention to it.
Right. And I just like those actors a lot. Like
Yeah.
the guy that plays Nick is really funny. The guy that plays Schmidt,
Love Schmidt, dude.
Win,
Schmidt's the best.
Winston kind of becomes more and more hilarious as it progresses. It's a fun show. It's one of my favorite. It's maybe my favorite sitcom of the past 10 years, just because it's not really been a great year for sitcoms, or rather a great era for
Decade, yeah.
sitcoms.
It's interesting because yeah, I'm looking at the episodes and I'm like, holy shit, there's 24 episodes this season. Like, what is this?
That doesn't happen anymore.
And Kat was like, well, yeah, because it's like an actual sitcom. And I was like, oh,
It's an
okay.
actual sitcom on a major network,
I
like
didn't
not
know
on a
this.
streamer, not on a
I didn't
streaming
know this.
service.
They still existed, but also I kind of like was kind of late in the game to New Girl because I wasn't watching it, but man, it lasted like through what 2016, 2017, so
I
2018,
I think 2018. It lasted 7 seasons.
and I hear it didn't end great. Wasn't the best ending.
It didn't, but I think all shows like that sort of fall into that same problem where it lasts just a little bit too long. It
Yeah, they take it a little too seriously. Like, what's gonna happen? Are
right.
the characters gonna get like all emotional and shit, and like things are gonna get serious? Because like I like the playfulness of the first season. I imagine the second and third season are probably similar, and then like what things get like I don't know.
Well, especially like any sitcom that's built around the will they won't they thing. Friends had Ross and Rachel.
Yeah,
For New Girl, it's Nick and Jess, and they kind of like do the will they won't they thing
or
for
Schmidt and
Schmidt and Cece.
yeah, that was the one thing. One gripe I had about the first season was like it was too much of like oh, we're not serious. We're just gonna have a bunch of great sex. And then it was like, oh, we really like each other. Cool, let's do this. And the next episode is like, oh wait, no, we're too much alike. Let's not do this. And I'm like, what the hell? Like,
That is a thing you will realize about New Girl is that every single relationship in that show is like built pretty quickly, makes you like the couple and enjoy seeing them together, and then we'll just randomly make them break up for no reason at all.
maybe that's the
Like,
point.
well, like I think in the first season you just watched, I believe she gets with Justin Long in that season.
Yeah,
She's
and
with him
he's
for a few episodes,
yeah,
and you're like,
ugly,
oh,
ugly crier, ugly crier.
right. But like they kind of develop him. You're like, oh, I like him. They're kind of nice together. I enjoy seeing him on screen. And then it's just like they randomly break up like 4 episodes in. And it's like, oh, okay, never mind. I guess we're not doing that then. And
Yeah,
that's the way that show is. It just kind of like recycles shit real quick. And then it makes you be like, why are we literally spending 4 seasons waiting for Nick and Jess to have sex? Like
yes.
like come on.
You got it, man. They know the formula. They
They
know
know
what
the
people
formula.
want.
They know what works. It
And I
worked for
mean,
Ross and Rachel.
Zoe Deschanel is she's so good.
She is.
I love her.
She's quirky. This is also the year that American Horror Story comes out for the first time. I've not really ever seen it, but that's very popular, I know.
I watched the political one that came out a couple years ago.
Oh
But
God. I don't think I could.
what I don't like about those is, and I'm talking from just like, I don't want to like dog on the writer. What's his name? Who's the guy that writes those things?
Ryan Murphy.
Yeah, Ryan Murphy. I mean, he's got all these,
He's
you know,
everywhere now.
and it's just the same shit over and over again. It always ends the same. It's like overly long, stretched out, and then the same end result is like some form of misery, and just like I find it very just unnerving and not enjoyable to watch. But like once I don't have a hard time finishing all his stuff. Not to take anything away from Ryan Murphy. I mean, like what he's doing is great, and I love the OJ Simpson stuff. That was really good. But
Yep.
I don't know, man. The American Horror Story stuff is I haven't seen most of them, but
I'm right there with you. I am not a huge fan of his. Like
yeah,
even the OJ Simpson thing, I liked. I found it kind of tedious, as I do most of Ryan Murphy's things.
that was his best work.
It was his best. It probably was, but
But it was already there for him too.
yeah, it was pretty easy material.
Yeah. I hope he's not listening. I hope I haven't hurt his feelings.
Hey, if we got Ryan Murphy listening to this show, then
We're getting
we
somewhere.
yeah, we are taking off.
Because I don't dislike. It's like I find a lot of it very entertaining. Like I'll watch it, but then by the end of it, I'm just so exhausted. I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to watch this anymore. This sucks.
Ryan, if you're listening, your Netflix film The Prom was very silly. I'll just leave you that one.
Silly, very silly
Very
one.
silly.
I like the
Uh,
Versace one. Was it Versace? Yeah. But
I
again, I
didn't
didn't
watch that
finish it.
either.
I didn't finish it because I was like, I can't watch this anymore. I'm done. I'm done with it. I know how it's ending, and I'm done. I'm gone. So
Okay, last major show from 2011 was Homeland. You ever watch Homeland?
never, never
That's a
watched it.
good show. That's a good
Yeah,
show. The first
another. It's
two
another one of
seasons,
those shows
especially.
where I know I'd like it, but never watched it. Is that Felicity?
I don't think it's Felicity. I think that's The Americans.
Ah, fuck. Wait. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's Claire Danes, right?
Yes, that's Claire
Yeah.
Danes. Felicity is Carrie Russell, right?
Yep. I do love Claire Danes.
Yeah, that's The Americans, which debuted.
2013.
Correct.
Ooh,
Correct. Nice.
random.
Nicely done. Look at that knowledge. You're a
Yeah,
bigger
dude.
TV guy than you lead on.
But I've never watched it either. I just know. I can remember it. I'm like, oh yeah, 8 years ago.
All right, I think that will do it for 2011 in television. Let's see real quick. I'm just gonna scroll through here things that ended in 2011. Anything major? Sarah Palin's Alaska, Hannah Montana. Yeah, nothing. Oh, Oprah ended in 2011. That was
Oh,
monumental.
it is.
She was a staple in my house when I would come home from school because my mom always watched Oprah.
Maybe we could do an episode dedicated to her, and maybe she'll give us a call, a ring. That's like the thing now, right? If Oprah calls you, you know you've made it.
I'm down for that. I recently saw that she had some interview recently. I forget who it was with, but yeah, that's about it. Beavis and Butthead ended. It's a seminal moment in American pop culture.
Wait, like it ended like, sorry, it ended like movie wise or
The
the show?
show, the show, it ended after 8 seasons.
Beavis and Butthead?
That's what it says.
That was in the 90s. No, that doesn't make sense.
Oh, Okay. It aired from 93 to 97 and then came back in 2011 for a one season revival.
Okay, yeah, that does make more sense. And
22 episodes.
holy shit, that's a lot.
There you go. Learn something new. I hope I'm not the only person that structures my podcast by just reading Wikipedia. but that's
No,
but that is what this is.
I mean I haven't read anything. I'm just going off what you're saying. So
Big pop culture moments in 2011. We killed Osama bin Laden that year. That's kind of a big
oh,
deal.
big Obama moment.
It is.
Nice job, Obama.
Remember when we had things to celebrate? That was nice.
Yeah, it was a big one.
The United States formally declares an end to the Iraq War on December 15th of that year, but then
Yes.
begins another one. So, all right, cool. Sports. I think we talked about the Heat losing to the Mavericks. The Giants won the Super Bowl. Well, actually, the Packers won in February of that year, and then the Giants won the next year.
Was that the catch?
No, that was 2007. That 2011 was the part two Giants versus Patriots. They played again, and
Still
the
blows my
Giants
mind that Eli Manning Giants beat the Pats
twice.
2-0. Blows my mind.
It is some things in sports make no sense, and that is one of them.
Like Brady should have 9 rings.
He should have 10. I mean, like,
Oh yeah, the
it's
Seahawks.
crazy.
Wait, was the Seahawks? No. What
Well,
was the one
his
where
his his he lost to the Giants twice,
right.
and then he lost to the Eagles in that like crazy Nick Foles game.
Yeah. The Nick Foles.
Philly special.
Big Dick Nick.
He was Big Dick Nick that day. I mean, it was kind of insane.
Yeah, and also Nick Foles has a giant penis. It's known.
World Series champions that year, the St. Louis Cardinals. I
Pujols.
have I have
Pujols.
nothing. Hey, the Braves were in the NLCS that year. Or no, they weren't. They were in the wild card, and looks like they lost
Yeah. No, they definitely did.
because that's what the Braves do. Yeah. So that's 2011, and I don't know. Let's wrap up real quick by doing what we did last year, where we did our top five of the year, movie wise,
Oh
at
man.
this moment, and next year we'll see if we get to change that at all by watching these movies again. I think that this year that is a lot more likely to happen for me, just because 2010 had so many of my all-time favorites. This year, not as much. So I'll be curious to see if my opinion changes.
Oh, you're gonna make me do this right now. What's is there not like a list of movies in order that I can look at?
In order of what?
Goodness. So I can base because man. Well, I think I might have because I think what happened last year is that I picked some I don't know whatever we did like our top 10 or top 5, but then as we went on through the season I was like oh shit like this movie this movie this
I
movie
forgot about this.
and then like my shit completely changed. But
I mean, you did have, looking back at it, you had the other guys in the top five in March. And then in our last episode we just
wasn't even in the top 10.
didn't even make top 10. Didn't even make it.
Oh man.
But we
What's
did.
also what's
We
also
watched a
tough
lot of
is
good
like
movies.
what's also tough is like I love Midnight in Paris. Like that would be easy.
But it's Woody Allen. It's
Uh
tough. It's tough.
God. So what do you do?
This is also a year of I'm not going to do the same thing I made us do last year where we watched all of the best picture nominations because 2011 had some fucking dogs in the Oscar race.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to watch War Horse. I don't know about you, but like I'm not interested in a 3 hour movie by Spielberg about a horse. It's just not my speed.
All right, my top five has two Ryan Gosling films. Okay, see another one there.
Spoilers. Wow.
Okay, okay, got that one. Oh, I almost got it. I'm gonna have a surprise one in there.
Okay.
All right, all right, I'm good to go.
Start with your five.
Okay, my number five will be my surprise film.
Okay.
I really like this movie, and I think it's underrated. And that would be the movie 50-50.
Oh man. Dude, that's my number five too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. It's such a good movie.
It is.
And it's like
I
so like heartfelt, like like
uh
if I were to have a friend that had cancer, like I feel like it's exactly how I would be to that
that
friend,
that movie I saw
So
at
good.
the campus theater. Like I said, I saw most of these movies. I went with my wife, or was my girlfriend then, now my wife, and I fucking bawled my eyes out. I was not
Yeah.
expecting to be so emotional in a movie that had Seth Rogen, but I was. It's a really great film, and it also was the movie that established my severe crush on Anna Kendrick because I think she is very cute and charming in that movie.
100%. It's just it's a really really beautiful film, and if you've ever known anyone that has cancer or anyone fighting anything sort of, you know, along
Yep.
those lines, it's, you know, just tugs at those heartstrings.
Yeah, I mean, like a little inside baseball about my personal life for the listeners, but I lost my best friend to cancer about 2.5 years ago. So,
Yeah.
way after I saw 50-50. So, I have a feeling that this movie is going to
Yeah.
impact me a lot more now, having lived that experience. Let's go to number four.
All right. Well, now I can't. Now I'm looking at this list and I'm like, I can't not have this in my top four. So, I'm gonna put Hugo at top number four.
So you're a big Hugo fan? I know
I
that
love.
like a lot of people that like Scorsese kind of argue about that one.
It's so good. It's such a good movie. Highly underrated. I mean, I know Square. It's not like your typical Scorsese movie, but it is phenomenal. And then like Sacha Baron Cohen playing like the antagonist, like he's really, really great villain. I kind of compare it to, like Tim Curry and like Home Alone 2 in a way, but obviously a much bigger scale film and better movie. But I love Hugo, man, and I'm excited to rewatch that as well.
We're once again in agreement because Hugo is my number two. So
Oh, number two.
my number two, it's a movie by Scorsese about why movies are awesome. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
It's everything that kind of captures what I'm interested in. So yeah, that's my number two, but I'll say my number four, which is the best J.J. Abrams film in my opinion, is
Ah,
Super
Super
8.
8. Super 8. Yeah. I liked it. I liked that movie. It
I
felt very much like a mashup of all these films I'd already seen growing up. I mean, again, you're 10 years younger than me, so it makes sense that
right,
you would like that movie a lot more than I do because that movie to me was more of like an homage to all the films I'd already seen.
right. And I think like it makes sense why someone of my age who my only familiarity with ET is like riding the ride at Universal Studios for it because like it I didn't really watch it growing up. I see Super 8 and it has all of these great things that makes ET so good. And then recently I watched ET for the first time and I was like, "Oh, so this is a fucking masterpiece." And that's why I like Super 8 so much
Yeah.
because it's an homage to ET. Um but I still do love Super 8. I think it kind of fits with the starts with ET. They do it in Stranger Things as well. The whole kids on bikes theme, where it's the kids in the neighborhood. They're trying to like figure out some weird anomaly that's going on, like supernatural, science fiction, what have you. And it's really good. I think it's kind of like a great representation of what J.J. Abrams is good at, which is taking shit that someone else already did and making it his own in a way that's like fun and interesting and makes you nostalgic for the past. He did that with Star Wars: The Force Awakens. He just took the first Star Wars movie and was like, "Hey, remember how awesome that was? I'm here to make a movie that just is purely there to remind you of that and not do much else."
Yeah,
Super 8, my number 4.
man, there's some good movies this year. Looking back, I'm like, holy shit! Deciding your top five is really hard. I mean, we're gonna do a top 10 at the end of the year, right?
We will. This, yeah.
Right now, my top five, I gotta kick some shit out. Like, I gotta kick a Gosling movie out because this is getting ridiculous.
I mean,
Um,
it's a really tough year because, like I said, there's no. I think I feel pretty firm about my number 1, but I really feel like 2 through 15 can kind of be any order because I listed like 25 movies here.
yeah. It's like now I got to give you my number
I'll while you
three.
while you think I will do my number 3, which
Okay.
you've not seen. It's The Descendants.
Ah, yeah. Again, like that could, yeah, that could creep in for me at the end of the year.
It's my favorite, like I said, my favorite Clooney performance. It's my favorite Alexander Payne movie. It's one that was sort of in the best picture conversation for a little bit. I wish that maybe it got a little more traction for Clooney. I know The Artist is what swept the Oscars that year. And it's kind of reminiscent of what happened in 2010 with The King's Speech, where it's, the movie that maybe isn't the most representative of the time is the one that wound up winning the Oscars, which kind of sucks. But yeah, The Descendants is really good. I'm excited to check it out again later in the year.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to watch it. I've always wanted to see it, so pumped about that one. I'm
All right,
struggling with.
I did Hugo as my 2 already, so you go ahead and hit us with number 3 and number 2.
So, okay. I'm struggling with my number three because I got two movies in mind because one, okay, they're both very high intensity action films. And the only reason I won't put the one in is because I feel like it very much plays off another classic film, like a classic American film. So I'm gonna go ahead and just like leave that one aside. And for my number three, I'm going to pick Source Code
Interesting.
because
Okay.
Source Code to me is like has a much more original plot. It's it's got this obviously it's an underrated film in my mind. Like it's very
So the other one you kicked off completely?
well. Okay, so I was fighting with the Raid because I love the Raid too. But
Okay.
the Raid to me is like again, it's more of like a mashup of great action films. Because the Raid
Homage
to
to
me is
martial
like
arts films
well, the
and
Raid to me is like it's one of the greatest action movies of the last past decade. But like to me, Source Code had this like
I mean
little bit
number
of a
number 2 to Mad Max Fury Road maybe.
maybe, yeah.
I've never
I don't
seen
know.
it. I just know that
I'll need to
from what I
rewatch it.
hear.
I mean, I love it. I remember loving it, and also just as I was watching it, I was like, okay, well, this reminds me of like a lot of other movies. Whereas Source Code, it had a lot of originality to it. I thought it was really underrated, and I just really vividly remember that film, like enjoying it. I remember watching it multiple times, and it really leaving like an impact on me. So at number, I feel like that it's deserving of a number three slot.
It's a great movie. That's honestly the one that I am most excited to watch again and cover because
Yeah.
I knew nothing about it. I saw it when it came out. I was so pleasantly surprised by how much I liked it, but I've not seen it since. So I'm curious if it'll kind of have that same effect on me again.
Yeah, and like the ending's all fucked up, man.
Another one like that that we'll talk about next episode is The Lincoln Lawyer. That's not on my list, but it's a movie that I did
I
not
haven't seen
expect
it.
much for, but I
I've never seen
really
that.
liked it.
Yeah, it'll be another one that I haven't seen. So,
Okay.
oh,
So,
I gotta go straight into my number two too, don't I?
yeah, right to number two.
Oh yeah, my last two are pretty easy. Um, it'll be interesting to see if this holds up after rewatching all these movies. But I mean, number two is Moneyball. Love Moneyball. I love it. I love that movie. I can still see the ending in my head. He's listening to the tape of his daughter, and like I think back, I think now that I have a daughter. Just a beautifully written script by Sorkin. Not surprising, and I just love the chemistry between obviously Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill, and that whole cast really was phenomenal. And the relationship there in the film with his daughter as well, like now resonates even more, right? So I'm really excited to rewatch it because I guess I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but I've probably watched it like at least three times. Um,
Yeah, it's one I watch a lot too. I'm always kind of surprised each time as well how many well-known actors are in it that I don't think about. Like Philip
yeah,
Seymour Hoffman, kind of a small
yeah,
role, and Chris Pratt just shows up
I know.
randomly. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, I remember. Well, I didn't even know who Chris Pratt was then when it came out because obviously he wasn't like a big name yet. What was the what his breakout role was that show, right? Parks and Rec.
He was on Parks and Rec when Moneyball came out, but I don't think it was really until he got. I mean, obviously Parks and Rec was popular, but it was when he got cast in Guardians of the Galaxy that
Right.
all of a sudden he was a big name.
He was like so skinny in Moneyball. Like you don't even he's almost unrecognizable when you like compare him to his character in Parks and Rec. You're like, it's the same
Yeah,
dude.
I wonder if he was like already working out for Guardians at the
Maybe.
time.
Um, yeah, man. I love that movie. I'll be excited to rewatch it. And Kat's never seen it either, so it'd be fun to watch with her.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't be surprised if anytime Sorkin is involved in a movie, it pops up high on our list because we had Social Network last year, obviously.
Yeah.
But we were pretty in sync with this entire top five because Moneyball is my number one film of 2011, and I already mentioned the five through two, but that's the one that I feel like is going to be hard to top. It's my two passions in life, which are sports and film, and I guess also I'm very into like the analytics of sports. I find that very interesting. I'm an avid fantasy football player for similar reasons because like the statistics and all that really fascinate me. And I just think Moneyball was a really interesting way of looking at a sport that I don't care about that much as a fan, but I was very interested in, like you said, the human dynamics of the Pitt character and his daughter, but also how it kind of uses that theme of taking players that are maybe a little bit undervalued or underrated and using them to put together something special. And watching like the team go on that win streak is so rewarding and triumphant, and it really makes you feel for like each of those players. And I also like have some vague memories of that Oakland Athletics team. So there was a lot of like, taking vague memories that I have and kind of contextualizing it in a cool way. Yeah, it's a great movie. Billy Bean still never got to that World Series. Feel kind of bad for him,
I know,
but
man.
he he has the A's have so many good teams over the last 15 years, but always choking the playoffs. It's what they do.
Yeah, I'm always kind of rooting for him too, like in the background. I'll always be a Braves fan, but Oakland A's, I don't know, they're like a cool team, right? They're always like,
Yeah.
you know,
And as someone, I have been to an A's game in my life. We took a trip one year to the Bay Area, and I went to a game in the Coliseum. Weird place to watch a baseball game because it's a football stadium.
yeah,
But I remember like the year Moneyball came out. I don't really care about baseball, but I randomly was like, I'm gonna get really into the A's this year because they were
nice.
good, and I just saw Moneyball, and I was like, you know what? It's like serendipitous. They have this movie that comes out about their owner, and now they're gonna go all the way and actually pull it off. But nope, they choked in the playoffs yet again.
Yeah, maybe one day.
But yeah, Moneyball is my number one. I think that covers my top five. You still have one movie left.
Yeah, my number one, I can't believe it's not in your top five, is Drive. Obviously, it was the greatest movie that year in my mind, and a lot of other people's mind, I'm pretty sure. But
It's not in my top five because I've never seen it before.
oh my God, really? How did I not know this?
I think I
Did we
like
did we even talk about this? No, I guess we didn't because I didn't know.
I think the last time we were recording, I kind of brought it up as a big movie and maybe insinuated that I had seen
Ah,
it before, but I just know that it's extremely popular. It has a huge following, but for one reason or another, I just never saw it. I think also like I have a tendency that whenever I miss something in theaters, I'll like go back and try to catch up on Oscar movies so that way I could kind of know what's nominated and what's winning. But since Drive, wrongfully so was ignored by the Oscars, it just was never one that I made a point to watch.
yeah, it's a beautiful film, man. It's really I just remember seeing it in the theater for the first time because I was really excited about it. I mean, I was already a Gosling fan. I didn't know much about this director at the time, which this is pretty much the movie that launches, Nicholas Winding. I'm gonna butcher his last. How do you say his last name? Riffin or
Nicholas Winding Refn, I think
right?
that's it.
Right, Riffin. Yeah, okay. Um, should get better at being able to pronounce some of these odd names. But anyway, yeah, man, Drive in the theater was a strange experience because I didn't really know what to expect going in, and I think leaving the theater, I still didn't know what I had just seen exactly because it is an odd film, and
Mhm.
but it's also, oh man, I mean, it's beautifully written, it's beautifully shot, directed, obviously. I mean, every single performance is fantastic. The soundtrack kicks ass. I mean,
Isn't Albert Brooks in that?
yeah, Albert Brooks is one of my favorites.
He's great.
And he kind of makes like I guess this would be sort of the beginning of his like, yeah, he had like a little bit of a renaissance there. I don't know if Drive was like the one that sets it off, but
Yeah, there was a lot of buzz about that was the biggest Oscar snub is that the movie was getting ignored, but people thought that Albert Brooks was going to sneak in for supporting actor, and it never happened.
yeah,
A lot of critics gave him recognition, but it is a loaded cast. It's like I think Bryan Cranston's in it,
uh-huh.
right? And like a young Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac, yeah.
So I'm excited to watch it for the first time.
Ron Perlman,
Ron Perlman. Is that Hellboy?
yep.
I knew that sounded familiar. Yeah, it's one that I just needed the right excuse. I needed the right excuse to put it on, and now we have one.
That's great, man. I mean, yeah, what a twist. I mean, I think I'll be interested, as will the rest of the world. Our listeners will be interested to hear your take because
A lot of pressure if I don't like
I
it.
mean, I got to think it's gonna
It
sneak into
probably
your
will.
top five, but maybe it
It
won't. I
might.
mean, I will say the movie's not for everyone.
Yeah, I mean,
It,
I know that it's not something that is universly beloved. Like
like
there's like hardcore fans and then some people that think it's not that good.
I know people that do not like it or do not care for it or whatever. But
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be tough to get in that top five though, because like we said, it's just a super deep year. We just talked about it. There's so many movies that I think could potentially eke their way in by having a little bit of a better experience with it this time than last time. Move something up, move something else down. But it's a great year for movies. There's some really classic comedies. We already mentioned Bridesmaids, but it's also the year of Horrible Bosses. We didn't talk about that yet, but
love that movie. So good.
that's a hilarious movie that's got your It's Always Sunny guy in it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I always said that that movie is basically an Always Sunny episode, like an hour and a half episode. Because
But
if
they
you
like recast the other two guys.
yeah, because you're just like whatever. Jason Bateman is Dennis and Sudeikis is Mac. Whatever. I mean,
Hmm.
even though they're not necessarily like each other as characters, they're still very much it's like the same dynamic, right? Like Charlie plays the funny idiot, and yeah, man, I love that movie from the moment I saw it. I also saw it in the theaters with some of my best friends actually, because we were all big Sunny fans, so we were excited about it, and yeah, it definitely didn't disappoint. So it'll be fun to rewatch that. That's also been a few years.
Yeah, similar to the Woody Allen issue we've been talking about. It kind of sucks that
Spacey.
Kevin Spacey, he's a fucking monster of a person, but he's so fucking funny in that movie. And
Yeah, yeah,
it's
he
unfortunate.
is. But he's also a piece of shit in the movie, so you can at least like root against him, right?
Right. He's basically playing himself. It's an autobiography.
Because that's how I felt about the movie Drive, which is I think like the last big movie he did before all that shit went down with him.
Oh, Baby
And
Driver, you mean?
oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we were just talking about Drive.
Yeah.
I said Drive. Baby Driver. And what's sad about that movie is he's such a piece of shit through the whole film until like the very end, and you're like, oh, that was cool. But whatever, he still sucks for most of the movie, so you can kind of root against him.
Yeah. As I'm looking through these, we didn't mention it yet. Are you a fan of the Mission Impossible franchise?
Yeah, of course, except for Mission Impossible 2, which is a terrible, terrible film.
It is awful.
But other than that, no, I think I love the new entries with Ghost Protocol, which we'll talk about this year.
Hmm.
And then I mean the last two were incredible. I mean I forget what they're called, but I've seen them all and they're awesome.
The most recent one is Fallout, which is just one of my favorite experiences in the theaters recently.
Yeah, it was so much
And
fun to watch, man.
Rogue Nation. I really like I I honestly love 3 through 6. Like 3 is kind of underrated in my opinion because Philip
Mark.
Seymour Hoffman,
Yeah.
he's such a good villain. I wish he did more shit like that.
Yeah, and I love when he puts on the Philip Seymour Hoffman mask.
Yeah, and Tom Cruise is, well, it's really like it's Philip Seymour Hoffman doing an impression of Tom Cruise, and it's kind of amazing.
Love that shit, dude. Yeah.
Great.
I love 3 too. Yeah, I mean 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, all amazing. 2, I don't what the hell was going on with that one. Too many doves, too much slow motion, too much John Woo. I
I
don't
think it
know.
was just a product of like what was popular at the time,
Yeah.
and it really just has not aged well at all. Like that was just the formula for action movies in the early 2000s and doesn't hold up very good whatsoever. And I always like I cannot think about MI2 without the parody in Austin Powers 3. You know what I'm talking about?
Uh, Probably you'd have to refresh my memory though.
Austin Powers 3 opens with like this canyon chase.
Oh yeah.
And they're like driving through the ravine. There's just like huge action set pieces.
Yeah,
and
totally.
And it's Tom Cruise as Austin Powers.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember that. No, that's so funny.
And speaking of Spacey, I think like he's Dr. Evil or something, and then it cuts back and you see Mike Myers watching the production, and it's being directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, that's good.
It's a funny gag.
I love those movies. Yeah, I remember that completely now. I haven't seen that in a long time.
It's kind of insane to think back at. I'm a big box office nerd. Like I'm kind of always paying attention to like what were the top 10 films in the specific years and stuff. And like Austin Powers was the number one movie in the country the year it came out, the third one, I think. And it's kind of insane to think about compared to now where it's everything's Marvel or some Disney remake, that some stupid ass comedy like that could be the number one movie in the world. But
yeah,
it's a different time. All right. Well, you have anything else on the films of 2011 before we wrap up?
No, man. I think we about covered it. I'm excited to dive in here, and
I am too. We'll start in March with. I don't think we've fully decided what we're covering yet. I know that Limitless is in there and Lincoln Lawyer, and there should be some good choices. So we'll hit the ground running, and then I think it's nothing but good shit the rest of the year.
Sweet.
All right, guys. Well, we will see you next time in March. In the meantime, stay safe, and thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Elsewhere on We Made This. Between the Notes.
So we've got another Netflix series and accompanying score, The Queen's Gambit by Carlos Rafael Rivera. Did you watch this over Christmas? Did you see it?
Well, funnily enough, I had at the start of last week, I had 2 days where I was working from home before I was going into a whole new job. And because I thought I was going to be working from home a lot more than I am, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to watch The Queen's Gambit in one day. So that's what I did. Yeah. I watched all 7 episodes of The Queen's Gambit in one morning and afternoon. So yes, I have seen it.
And it's sublime, isn't it? It's a really, really good. So I'm saying that. I'm assuming. Did you think that as well?
No. I thought it was incredible. Sorry. Shipwrecked and Comatose, a Red Dwarf podcast.
So with my track record, have you worked out where I'm going with this?
I have now, yeah.
Have now?
Would it feel different if you had a wank?
Probably.
But the thing is, as well, it might be different. It might be different even with the left-hander and the left-hander, though.
True.
Different pace. It's different pace.
Yeah, and also, it's a different cock. I hadn't thought of that.
Speaking of that, Chris Barry looks down. Well, Rimmer looks down, doesn't he? At some point.
Yes, he does.
We dig music.
I am amazed this made top 10.
Oh, it's really good.
I really am.
I do not remember what this
Exactly.
is like at all. My only comment when I was actually listening to it is bit nothingy.
I think it's really good, although it does suspiciously sound a lot like Sting's Shape of My Heart.
What?
It really does. The guitar melody is very much like it. It's got
Fuck you.
beautiful guitar and vocal.
Fuck you, Ian.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.